This is a lesson about learning about the author and illustrator, which is directed for a kindergarten ELA lesson. The rationale is that this lesson should serve as an introductory lesson meant to simply inform students about the basic roles of authors and illustrators. This can be instructed both in large group and small groups. It does depend on your class size and your preference. The content area is English language arts, focusing on both reading and writing. And the duration of the entire lesson only, excluding any breaks, should be about 45 to 60 minutes. The objectives. On a worksheet, the students will identify author and an illustrator of a given book cover. Students will collaborate with peers in a large or small group to write a story, and students will draw 5 pictures depicting a group written story. Now, the assessments, there are 2 for this lesson. A checklist will be used to evaluate the worksheet below. This is the worksheet they will complete. It'll simply be, did they write their name? Did they circle the author's name and put a square around the illustrator's name? Very simple, as it is a kindergarten introductory lesson. A rubric will be used to evaluate the students' drawings. So we will emphasize neatness on a scale from 1 to 4 and accuracy in relation to the story. The Pennsylvania state standards that accommodate or accompany this lesson are CC.1.3.K.D, which is name the author and illustrator of a story and define the role of each in telling the story. And then the art or creative arts state standard is 9.1.V.K.E1, which is use imagination and creativity to express self through visual arts. This connects to their drawings at the end of the lesson. So the pre-assessment that is recommended to take place 1 week prior to the start of the lesson, students will be asked to go through the classroom library and look for or attempt to look for books with the same author. And then we will have a class discussion to see if we can determine, well, why is this person's name on the front of the book? What do we think they do? Why is their name important? So the introduction of this lesson. The teacher will show a video entitled Author and Illustrator on YouTube. It's about a 2-minute video, and a suggested script is as follows. We're going to talk about 2 people that create books, and this video tells us fun facts about those people and what they are called. And some predicted student responses and outcomes are here on the right. Students will watch the video, and then those with accommodations for EL students or students with IEPs or auditory disabilities, the subtitles will be enabled on this YouTube video in English, and then special seating accommodations will also be implemented, whether that be flexible seating or allowing them to stand at the back of the room during the video. So the transition from sitting at our desk to the small or large group area, the suggested script is as follows. If you are ready and focused readers, I would like you to waddle like a penguin to the circle carpet and find your spot. Again, on the right, you will see predicted student outcomes and student responses. And in the box there, it says students will be reminded of safe transition procedures, including walking, quiet and calm body movements, and they will also be reminded that there are other classes learning around them. All right, procedure step 1, teacher suggested script. Here we go. Okay, class, since we watched that video, what do you think we are going to talk about? We are going to talk about books and people who make them. Books are something that can be very exciting to learn about. You can raise your hand and tell me about your favorite book. Pausing here to allow for 3 to 4 students or more, if you should choose to respond to this question. And again, students will respond to the question, and EL students will have will be shown a book, and they will have, depending on their native language, that word for book on it, so they can make the connection in their native language as well as English. Procedure step 2. So the teacher will show the book Froggy Goes to School and explain in a book the person who writes the story is called the author. Can you say author? Again, allowing for wait time for students to all repeat author. In this case, our author's name is Jonathan London. He wrote the words of our story. Let's thank him. As a class, we will all say, thank you, Jonathan London. And the students will repeat the word author, and they will repeat, thank you, Jonathan London. And here you can see the materials needed are the book Froggy Goes to School. Now, if you choose to use a different book, you can simply swap that out and swap out the author's name. The next part, while still using the book Froggy Goes to School, some suggested scripts could include, in a book, the person who draws the pictures is called the illustrator. Can you say illustrator? Students will reply, illustrator. In this book, our illustrator is Frank Remkewitz. And so let's thank him. So let's all say, thank you, Frank Remkewitz. And students will say, thank you, Frank Remkewitz. And of course, he has a very complicated name that kindergartners may or may not be able to pronounce properly. Then we're going to take a short break if your schedule allows, remembering that these are kindergarten students. They are 5 years old. So sitting on a carpet for an extended period of time is not going to be the best. So taking a break, whether that be a recess break, a go noodle, a brain break, taking a bathroom break, going to special, whatever that may be, but breaking this up into 2 portions during the day is going to be pretty beneficial. All right, post-recess transition. Teacher suggested script includes, once you are in the room and your coats are put away, you may hop like a bunny back to your carpet spot and then pretend to quietly eat a carrot snack. This allows for students to come into the room, and then they will again be reminded of safe transition procedures, but they will also be allowed to take what we call a blast off drink, counting 1, 2, 3, blast off at the water fountain since they are coming in from outside. Again, you can transition however you'd like. This is simply a suggested one, as in this example, they are coming from recess. The next step, so before we left for recess, who can tell me what we were talking about? Allowing students to respond and showing them the book Froggy Goes to School. So now we're going to transition a little bit to a writing section of this lesson. So we're going to make that connection here. Some script suggestions include, so since we're learning about authors, why don't we practice being them too? Who can remind me what an author does? Calling on a few students there. Very good. Now let's think about what we did at recess and write a story about what we did. How should we begin? The teacher here will use an easel, a big piece of paper, the whiteboard, whatever he or she may choose, and you're going to start to write a story with your students. And you can repeat this as many times as you want, keeping in mind again that they are 5 years old and that, stories might need to be modified as they're being written by the teacher or clarified so that they make sense. And this will take about 10 to 15 minutes, depending on how long you want your story. Now, this next part you can do on a separate day. In this lesson, I am choosing to extend it, as usually in a normal schedule in the state of Pennsylvania, we have a reading block and a writing block. So this is kind of going into that writing block. So I'm going to then read the story from start to finish, and then here is a suggested script. I love our story about recess today. Now that we are amazing authors, let's practice being illustrators. Who can remind me again what an illustrator does? Allowing and waiting for them to respond. Yes, they draw the pictures. Let's quietly go back to our desks, allowing for a quiet and quick transition. Now, I will read our story slowly to you, and I want you to draw a picture for each page. So students are going to be sitting back at their seats, and they're going to have a piece of paper that can be pre-passed out while they were out of the room at recess. You can have a helper pass it out during this transition, however you'd like to handle that in your classroom. And then they'll need their coloring materials, whether they have individual or group ones, depending on how you're seated. And then they are going to, this could take about 10 to 15 minutes or even longer. They just draw basic ones and go back and color them later. So here's a closure. So this can take place, again, either the next day, at the conclusion of their drawings, or on another time, if you want to extend this lesson over a number of days. So as the teacher collects the finished drawings, you're going to then distribute a worksheet. So, and then a suggested script includes, now that our story has pictures, I want to see what you remember. On the paper, you see a picture of a book. You need to put your name at the top, and we have the chant, the first thing I do is always the same. The students reply, I pick up my pencil and write my name. Now I want you to put a circle, reminding them with a visual air circle, putting a circle around the author's name on the book cover, which you can see here is this worksheet on the right. And then you're going to draw a square, drawing an air square so they remember, around the illustrator's name. So some connections, beyond the classroom, our students and families will be encouraged to discuss their favorite author, and then they're encouraged also to bring those books by that author into class to share for circle time. Explaining to parents maybe in a letter sent home that we are emphasizing authors and illustrators and encouraging them to have those discussions at home. And here are the references based on what was used in this lesson. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you find this useful, and thank you very much.